X-Men Review Take 1. In preparation for Deadpool and Wolverine, I will be looking back on all the Fox X-Men and Deadpool movies to give a new insight and retrospective to each film. Now, let's start off with a little film called X-Men. The first live-action X-Men movie to come out in the early 2000s, and it did a couple of things. It laid down the foundation of what superhero films could become. It also did really well with both critics and audiences alike. Plus, amazing casting, and not only that, but it also, after the first one, it did so great that it spawned 12 more live-action X-Men films, and with the two Deadpool films, the entire Fox X-Men Deadpool films franchise is $6.83 billion, which is a lot. Now, with all that out of the way, this film starts off pretty good. Professor Xavier narrating the life of the people and mutants alike, and showing young Magneto in a concentration camp, and then it reflects to Rogue, the main plot character for this film, and shows how she kills her boyfriend by kissing him, therefore finding out she's a mutant, and goes on a trip, stops at a bar, sees Wolverine fighting for money, and let me say, the fight scenes are a bit dated and a little campy /cheesy in the earlier films, but besides that, it's still a really good first film with the budget they had and when it came out. Now, back to it. Logan, aka Wolverine, lives in a camper and stops after hearing a noise. It was Rogue. Then he's like, beat it. And then she's like, I saved you. And he comes back for her. They ride off together. Then comes Sabretooth. And Logan and him fight. He beats up Sabretooth. Then Cyclops, Storm, and I think Jean Grey and save Rogue. Wolverine, take them back to the school for gifted children. Wolverine wakes up from a nap to discover he's being treated by Jean Grey. Then he gets up, runs off, trying to figure out where he is and why he is hearing voices in his head. He then stumbles upon Professor X, and he tells Logan about the school, also what he does, and tells Logan that he can help him and teach him about his powers, and further elaborate about how he got the adamantium claws and the powers to begin with, because Logan has been having these reoccurring nightmares, and I find that pretty interesting in a character with his character. Then he is reluctant at first to join Professor X and the gang. And now let's backtrack a little bit. Magneto and Professor X have a different philosophy on human life and how mutants are treated in their own ways of thinking. Each of them has a point. That's why Magneto wants to turn humans to mutants, with Rogue being the main central character and person/mutant to turn all the people, I think mainly the senators and higher ups, into mutants, and then Magneto having that political kind of control, and that's what Professor X mainly wants to stop, which is completely understandable. And so they end up in the fight. So they end up fighting because Professor X takes Rogue, because earlier on Rogue didn't want to be in the gifted for children. Professor X is gifted for mutant children. So she left. She went to the railroad. Professor X hooked on the brain thing and found her. He sent Logan and all of them after her. And once Logan found her first using Cyclops' bike, they went on the train, and that is when Magneto stopped the train, and Logan was trying to stop Magneto, but Magneto got a hold of Logan first and just pushed him aside using adamantium, since Logan's power is adamantium, and an adamantium is a kind of metal-based substance pretty much. And then he takes Rogue and uses her for his uprising, his power, his idea / philosophy that I mentioned earlier, which is I like how he's doing that. And fast tracking, going forward, they ended up fighting, going to the Statue of Liberty, because that's where all this happens. So they fight at the Statue of Liberty, and Magneto has the Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, and Jean Grey all trapped, and then Wolverine was able to get out. He faces Sabretooth, and then he gets Cyclops to get his thing off, and then he lasers Sabretooth out of the head of the Statue of Liberty, and they all get out. They face Magneto. They win. They free Rogue, and Professor X narrates at the end again, just like he does in the beginning of the movie, and it ends really well and sets up for a second film. So now let's not only go into that, let's go into the positives. So if I go into my positives here, I'd say it's a great plot for the first film, amazing character arcs for some of the characters, great casting to mention, Professor X, Charles Xavier, whoa, that's Wolverine, Storm, some of those castings were pretty great. Cyclops, James, I'd say it's kind of iffy. Mixed, definitely the suits. I thought it was cool at first, but then I'm like, you know what? Why the leather? It seems like late 90s, early 2000s mainly rocks leather, and it didn't rock the bright colored comic accurate suits, which kind of disappointed me, because in the X-Men 97 show and the earlier X-Men animated features and the X-Men comics, they were wearing comic accurate bright colored suits. I mean, I guess in one variation of the X-Men comics they might have been wearing dark leather suits, but that's neither here or there. That's just, I don't know. I didn't like the suits. I thought they should have gone more bright. But that's Fox. That's X-Men for you. And then it can be too dark and gritty. Like, some scenes are really dark and you can't catch the fighting. Some scenes you can. Fighting can be a little bit campy, like I said earlier. But that's only because this film's like a 2000 film, and it is a bit dated for its time. And since we're in 2024 and not 2000s, that is why. Negatives, I would pretty much say the Cyclops character, because once we go into the second and third film, the love triangle between Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Wolverine, aka Logan, is going to be, ugh. I hate that. It's going to be like a soap opera kind of between them three. The CGI and practical effects are kind of iffy. Some of it's pretty cool, but some of it's not so much. But it's dated. I mean, what can you do with a low budget and not so much, not as much stuff as you would have now accessible to you? And overall, You know what? Overall, the first X-Men movie is definitely a must-watch. If you love superhero films and the X-Men overall, this movie stands the test of time in some cases. Not in all cases, but in some. Most specifically, by introducing mutants to live action, a rise in comic book sales, rise in comic book movies throughout, such as after X-Men, you have Spider-Man. But before Spider-Man, it was X-Men. Because X-Men started it. People will be like, oh, Blade was it, but it wasn't Blade. Blade was, It was mainly X-Men that laid down that foundation. And then Spider-Man kept it going. And then when you have Iron Man, it just blew off the roof about what MCU/superhero films could become. I just find that so interesting. Look at me going on a rant here. And I would definitely check out this film. Just even if you don't really like some superhero films, I just check it out just because. I mean, the new Deadpool and Wolverine film is like right around the corner, and there's definitely going to be cameos. There's definitely going to be some Easter eggs. And yes, the director, Sean Levy, said, oh, there's not a must-watch of previous films, but it would be nice to have that knowledge and not need it than to need it and not have it. Because if a prime example, 2021 Spider-Man, No Way Home. That movie, spoilers ahead, but that movie's 3 years old now. That movie had Tobey Maguire's original Tobey and Sam Raimi trilogy Maguire's villains, and it had Tobey in the movie. And referenced other parts of the film and whatnot. Plus, as well as callbacks. Then it moves on to adding Andrew Garfield's interpretation/iteration of his versions of Spider-Man. Well, Mark Webb's / Andrew Garfield's version of Spider-Man, moving from just friendly to Amazing Spider-Man, the TASM films, the two ones, which were okay. And then just adding that up with Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire facing off against their old villains, I thought it was just so great and amazing and such a love letter to Spider-Man fans. I feel like that's kind of what they're going to try to do here with this new Deadpool and Wolverine movie. They're going to send off the Fox X-Men 20th Century, all those films in some sort of way, and it's going to be amazing. That's why I'm going over every single film and retrospecting off of it, or / reviewing it and giving my thoughts and analysis over every single one of them. And when I watched this film again, because this is like my third rewatch, when I watched it recently, I still thought it was a really solid, good comic book live action film. And I would definitely keep watching it in the future because of the people that they casted, the director behind this film, the plot behind this film. And mainly, not only that, but mainly how it not only exceeded, but it surpassed what a superhero film could be back in the early 2000s, even before the Spider-Man films. And that is just so amazing. Well, that's it for this review. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. And I will come right back for the second X-Men film. All right, thank you so much. Peace out.